ETSU did not support MacBooks when I started.
Wow.
In 2008. So, which was pretty mind-blowing, but when you think back about it, I guess looking back from where we are now, and how technology's evolved, even in 10 years, which is when I started in 2008, Wi-Fi wasn't that old, I guess, or at least that common in a commercial use. And then from that, I also know that ETSU is incredibly slow to pick up new technology. So since then, I've kind of noticed these items. But anyway, I had to take my laptop to our ITS help desk about every 2 weeks so that they could reset my Wi-Fi to connect to ETSU's servers.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. So it was pretty labor intensive because they had some script that didn't include Apple, and it was really labor intensive for them to actually go in and do it. But most of the time when I was in my residence hall room, I was connected to the internet via Ethernet. So I had like a 50-foot cable that ran from the wall to my bed or wherever I was sitting in my room. People who were in school before that think about when they would get on or wait to use the phone in the wall to call their parents once a week, and they had to wait in line or whatever. But I laugh because I'm like, my version of that now is I have an Ethernet cord connected to my laptop anywhere in my room. So. So we did have that. We were starting that technology at ETSU run then, but I don't think I took my first online course until the summer before my junior year. So I was taking an intro to film course. This is the one that I remember most vividly, and it was. I took it because I needed an elective, and I still really like the art of storytelling via filmmaking, and so I was just generally really intrigued in the class, so I took it. It was very, very laid back. It started as a laid back class, and then it was an even more laid back class as it was a summertime class. It kind of felt like a whose line is it anyway situation where like everything's made up and the points don't matter. But I guess from my perspective, I've always been rather thorough. I'm not the most, like, I don't need to get 100 to walk away and be okay. So I'll be okay with an 89. Like, I just, I'm not a straight A student, and I'm okay with that. But I really like this class. I remember we had modules, which are pretty similar to some of the classes we are in right now.
Yeah.
And we had them broken up into content areas, and it was like, you read a section about the history of film in black and white without sound, and then you started reading about lighting, or then we kind of talked about different genres, and about our second or third movie in, it was the genre that we had to watch a movie and then write a reflection paper on the movie, commenting on what we observed with the lighting or the sound or the mood or whatever. And I am a huge scaredy cat, and I kept going through the list of horror movies, and I was like, well, I'll try The Shining because I hear that's a great movie. Well, I made it like 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes. It was probably like just past the intro of the hotel, and I was like, I can't do this. And then we had, I went down to the next movie, and it ended up being Nosferatu, which is a black and white movie. It is truly, like, it just is, it's scary. I'm still a scaredy cat, but that movie is just, it really is. Like, if you're watching it, and you're a little bit scared, and there's a noise outside, you're like, all right, Dracula is coming to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't watch it. I emailed my professor, and this is my example of how it was so laid back. I said, listen, I'm not doing well here. Can I watch Young Frankenstein, which is a Mel Brooks movie, and apply that as a horror film? And he was like, heck yeah, go for it. And so from that point on, I kept taking Mel Brooks films and inserting them into the genre. So, like, I watched Blazing Saddles. I had, Spaceballs, which is not a good movie, but whatever. Some other stuff that had, I watched Robin Hood Men in Tights. So, yeah, that was I had a really good first experience. All that to say, it was really laid back, but it still captivated me.
Okay. Second question. Describe the factors that led you to enroll in a fully online program instead of a traditional one.
So my rationale for choosing the program, well, actually there was a bit of a rationale for that, but as a full-time staff member for ETSU, you have educational benefits, an educational benefits package, and one of the components of that is you can take up to 6 doctorate level courses per semester without paying for it. And I was just like, well, why wouldn't I give myself this tuition reimbursement / full ride to go for a doctorate program if I know that I'm going to be working at ETSU over the course of this program, and it's in the field that I want to pursue professionally as a career. So I started looking at programs. At the time, I was an admissions counselor, and as an admissions counselor for the fall academic term from about the second week of August through the first week of December, you're traveling about 12 out of the 15 weeks of the academic term. So I knew that I couldn't do a program in person, and I couldn't even do a blended program where I got some Fridays off and spent every other weekend in the classroom. Like I couldn't even make that work. So it really left me, when I started boiling down and doing the process of elimination, what remained for me was a 100% online program. And of the programs in the state, I had the most connections with our program, and I just felt the most comfortable pursuing that. So there was definitely the traveling component was a huge deal. The cost of attending was a huge deal. The other thing was the comfort of being close to home and doing not having to learn new everything. So like I didn't have to learn D2L again. I didn't have to learn how to get through the tuition reimbursement, which is still GoldLink. I still have to go through some stuff with that. I didn't have to reestablish new relationships. If I had to do assignments, it was pretty easy to draw a line. If I needed to actually ask my professors questions in person, odds were that they worked in Johnson City, so I could come and see them in person. So when I started to boil down all the factors that come with a degree, I felt like I was getting the same benefit out of this as I would for a traditional in-person program.
All right, so the next question is a two-parter, so I'm just going to ask the first one first and get your reaction, and then the second part. The first part is describe your work-life school balance before you enrolled in a fully online program.
So I had a different job, and I was in a different relationship status, and I had I basically lived a completely different life at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So what I had been doing, and I had, you have to work for at least 6 months until you can start taking in the educational benefit. So I had been working for the university for almost an entire year before I started the online program. So I still had a pretty full life. I was traveling a ton. When I was on the road, I wasn't doing a lot. It was a lot of Netflix, a lot of research about what programs I was interested in, and maintaining kind of a long distance relationship with my now partner. And then when I was home and not traveling, my partner and I would we take pretty extensive trips still, but we would go kayaking a lot more and hiking a lot more than I do right now. So a good example of that is in the fall, it's festival season for kayaking. So we would go to like Summersville, West Virginia for an entire weekend, and we would be at Golly Fest, which is the festival for the Golly River. So yeah, it was a lot more recreation time then.
Okay. Well, you pretty much answered my second part, which was how did it change after you moved into a fully online program? I guess you just, had less time for all that stuff.
Yeah, I think that as I've become more committed to the program, well, I can't even say that because my job is a lot more mentally exhausting. So before I took the job I'm in now, my role was it was incredibly easy. It was too easy, which is why I needed more challenge. I was a puppet in a recording. So basically I would have the same conversation about 100 times every day of tell me about ETSU. And so I needed some more mental stimulation. And I don't know if I have to be overflowing at that level or push to that level, but I knew I needed something a little bit more. But then the opportunities kept coming up. So my husband and I got engaged, and then I had to start planning a wedding. So that was in the first year of the program. In the second year, the job that I've wanted since I was an undergraduate student was offered to me. And that came with a crap ton of work. Can I put it that way?
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
don't
fine.
put me on that, but just more work than I could have ever imagined, and constant fires coming up that I have to put out, and making sure that people. One of my responsibilities is a lot of the times I'm a resource for my students. They develop a relationship with me, and they may have a student in their organization who's experiencing a crisis, and I'm first or second for them to call. How do I handle XYZ situation? I'm afraid someone will be harmed. So that burden is on me now. So I think in the time frame between the first and third year, that second year for me was a huge shift for my relationship status, and I bought a house. And then on top of that, I think that getting more involved in this program and trying to commit a little bit more brain space to it, but at the same time losing a lot of my brain space to that job and to these other commitments. So I think the other thing that I take for granted that is actually a pretty big commitment too is I serve as a national volunteer role for my sorority. So I advise fraternities and sororities, but I have a different role where I work with about 15 campuses and provide additional support to them as well. So there's 15 more people that I'm responsible for cultivating relationships with and knowing their names and knowing a little bit about them and providing some of the same services. So that came in the second year as well. And these are all things that I've really, really wanted in life. And I don't know if it was because the program started or if it just is like, all right, well, she's ready for this now, that they all kind of landed in my lap at one time.
Mm-hmm. Next question. I got to find it here. What do you perceive to be advantages and disadvantages of fully online learning?
So advantages, well, if in a position like admissions, where you can't physically commit to being in a space, or having connection to reliable Wi-Fi, or if you just have I guess I will call it a little bit more of a flexible lifestyle, an online program is kind of the only way that you can get this to fit into your life, unless you're, I don't know. I could not figure it out. It's the only way I could figure out to get it to fit in my life.
Yeah.
So that advantage is I have access to this educational aspiration that if this were not available, I would have no access to. I think it also lends itself well to opening up doors for different types of people to join in the conversation, and that we also have access to those individuals as well. And the other thing is with a blended learning, so my supervisor is actually in a blended program. She's getting her educational doctorate. She started this year with a different school, obviously. And she has to give up what I perceive as a lot more than what I have to give up. So she has to physically drive to Nashville and dedicate 3 days every other week, so 6 days a month, to be with her cohort. And, you know, our dedication to each other is an hour or two here and there throughout this semester. But I think that we also find ways to connect through group projects and, you know, needing to be each other's resources if the class is, I don't know, not set up well. I'll put that graciously.
Yeah.
So I think that our relationships in our class are kind of forged in a little bit hotter of a fire because we have more challenges to overcome, and I think we're a different type of person who persevered at this point, and we have a lot of mutual respect out of that. So, yeah.
Okay. How is learning different for you in a fully online environment as opposed to traditional?
So I hate lecture style settings, which is why I didn't do well in Dr. Good's class. Well, I did fine, but I emotionally didn't fare well in Dr. Good's class. There was no part of me that fared well in that class. I was like just distraught. But yeah, I don't love it. I maybe I have that like millennial attention span that they always blame us for, where we need like constant stimulation. But I don't think that's the case. I think that online learning, especially in like Dr. Flora's classes, where we have these different assignments that make us practice skills. I just, that's my jam. Like, that is where I thrive. If you're telling me, hey, you're going to use this skill, I will practice it. I will go 100% in. I can conceptualize it. I'm so much better at learning in that kind of environment. We do get discussions, and I think that those challenge like a different part of our brain, just to say like, all right, well, how do I consider what other people are bringing to the table, and how do I make this thought my own and not bore everybody to tears, and how do I also complete this assignment so that I can go on and get XYZ done with my day. So,
describe your feelings on the quality of fully online education.
So this is like, it very much depends on the mood I'm in. So if you had asked me the quality of this course at the beginning of January, I would have been, or this program, I would have been like, I am so disappointed right now, because I had another semester of a course that was just not like my bread and butter. Like, I will never do well in statistics, and I've tried and tried and tried and really given a lot of effort, and it is just not my thing. So it varies. I think it's a lot easier for you to be an armchair coach. Or what is it? Is that the right way? Sports metaphor?
Armchair quarterback?
Yeah, right? Armchair coach? I'm saying that right?
That's fine.
Okay. So it's a lot easier for you to make calls from the sideline when you're not seeing the physical work that professors put into it. But I think that's still there, and I think that they care, and I think that it just depends on if the content is clicking with me. I'll speak in my terms. So, I think the quality of the program is there. I think that the lessons we learn are drastically different than like an in-person PhD program, for example. But you're comparing apples and oranges when you do that. So I would have to say, looking back, which I think we're kind of on the cusp of like just being able to look back and have like those reflective moments. Looking back, I'm very satisfied with the work that I've put in. And I think that I will be very happy when this is over.
Okay. How has your perception of fully online learning developed since you transitioned to doing that full time?
Yeah. I think I like it more than I thought I would. I think that I was doing this, like, when I think back now on how I made the decision, I think I was doing it because it was available, right? Like, this is just a path, a door that was open to me, and it was a great door to go down, so I went down that path. But, and I don't think I had a strongly developed opinion of an online program, but I can see where, I can see the pitfalls and some of the gaps right now, and I think that it has made me a more informed administrator. I think it lends itself well to administration. So I think it's made me a more informed administrator to understand how to maintain programs that are valuable to students. So just the act of managing and administrating my time and commitment to this program has been like a lesson that I don't think I would have learned in a 100% in-person class or program. So my perception has changed a lot, because I think it was just kind of like a cave that I was like, all right, let's go see what's in this cave. And now that I'm in here and looking around, I'm like, you know what? This is a really great option for folks who have the time, or who will make the time to commit to their education, but can't do it in a typical structure. Maybe you're working on stuff at midnight. Maybe you're only able to work on the bulk of their stuff on Saturday mornings, or Saturday mornings and Thursday evenings, but that's all the time they need to get it done.
Okay, I'm going to ask you the opposite now. How has your perception of the traditional environment changed?
I think that when I look at a traditional classroom, so like I look at a traditional classroom of like one that's not embracing innovation and technology. So we're talking like a teacher standing at the front of a classroom lecturing. I just find it so unimaginative and like just recycled, and to use slang, like played out. You know, we need to. There's a time and a place for that. I'd say there are some people who do well in that setting, but for the most part, my expectation if I were to go back to a traditional classroom is that my professor is engaging me in ways that aren't just lecturing me. And if they're just lecturing me, I'm very dissatisfied with that course. So my husband, and I'll have to be, just share this, my husband teaches career technical education courses here in Tennessee. So he teaches a drafting course and a web design course and computer science. And when he describes what his courses are and tells me some of the stuff that he does in the classroom, I just sit there and I think, how can his students not soak up every second and just absolutely love what they're doing? Because in that setting, he's saying, here's a project. It's project-based learning. If they have a question, they raise their hand. And I'll say, like, with the caveat that, like, there are some great teachers out there. And I'm not just, like, saying this because I'm his wife and I think he's awesome, but, like, he is kind of a one-of-a-kind teacher, and he's one of those really exceptional folks that inspires kids to, live out their lifelong passions. So he's a unique person, but I think about, all right, in that setting, it makes so much sense. But when I think about sitting in my biology for non-majors class at ETSU, I just remember thinking, I think now, like, if I were an adult in that classroom, what a freaking waste of time. You know what I mean? And that is my money, and that is my time that I will never get back down the toilet. The College of Education at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where I got my grad degree, is consistently ranked in the top 10, top 5, if not first in the United States on an annual basis. And then the program that I was in is along the same lines. But, I just think about some of the classes even in that program where I look back and I'm like, what were we even doing? And I was so miserable in that course. Was it because the content wasn't being delivered by a great professor? No, they're a fantastic professor. It's that learning style did not work for me, and there was no way for me to take it and mold it like I can now and be flexible and fit it into a bubble that allows me to move forward without saying, if you just do this, then you've met the requirement and the assignment is over.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of instructors, how has your relationship with instructors changed now that you're in a fully online environment?
I do think they don't get to know you as well. So, examples from my grad program, one of my professors would occasionally go down to the student union and have a pitcher of beer with the students. So we don't have that option, really. We could probably make that happen, but we wouldn't all be in the same place. So it would be a little bit different kind of bonding. But and I think you have to make a special effort to stand out to your professors if you're in an online program, or just be either that much of a standout, either for good reasons or for bad reasons, that they remember you. But I think that, and I also think it has to do with the number of people who are teaching in the program. So if we have a small number of professors and they're teaching, constantly on loop with 4 cohorts, and they've got just a tremendous workload, your opportunity to develop a relationship with them in an online program is a lot harder versus in person, where I remember my freshman year of college, I took intro to psychology, and I had about 175 other people in that class, and I didn't do well on a couple of the first tests. It was one of my first classes in college, and I just couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong, but I knew something wasn't right. And I went to talk to my professor after class, and I just made that initiative to say and reach out and say, like, I really need some help, but I don't know what to do because you're not statistics. Most people don't struggle in intro to psychology, and I'm feeling just super lost on what to do and where to go for help. And he said, come to my office hours. And then we sat down and we looked at my tests, and then I took his advice and changed a couple of things and went to a tutoring service, and then I, started acing his tests. And 3 years later, I ended up picking up psychology as a minor, and I chose his class, which was like the most boring class title they offered for a psychology minor, and it was basically about the history of psychology. But the only reason I took it was because it was with him, and because he showed me such compassion as a new student. And when I saw him the summer before that class, and I hadn't seen him in 3 years, and we were in an auditorium getting ready for an orientation, he ran straight down the aisle and stuck his hand out to shake my hand and said, "Miss Darden, I hope you're doing well. It's good to see you." And I was like, "You haven't seen me for 3 years," and I was a freshman, and I was in that. It just blew me away that he remembered me, because he was just that kind of a person. So, yeah, that's a big difference. I get that, relationship. It's a lot harder to make when you're not there, and they are not wanting to video chat you because they have lives, and there are 700 of us.
All right, 2 more.
Okay.
How does fully online learning affect your loyalty to the institution?
I would say it's a lot harder to develop loyalty to the university because your access to resources is fewer and farther between. So, if I weren't working on campus and fully inundated, and also a brand ambassador for the university in the past, what kind of relationship would I actually have? I think I get frustrated with the resources the university offers as an online student more because of connection issues when I'm searching for stuff in the library. I'm not sure if you have that problem,
but
when you're you're in a database and you have to log in 7 times to get to a paper, that drives me bonkers. So there are opportunities where, if I were on campus and I were trying to access that same resource, I would just connect within one click. Which I would assume you probably don't know that that's a thing that happens, because you probably haven't spent much time using our house servers on our campus, but that is reality. So sometimes I will just research at work or at my computer at work outside of work hours, because it's so much easier. So I think that sometimes the frustrations of the university are a little bit easier to see when you're not there and not experiencing the climate of the campus. So yeah, I think it's a lot harder to develop pride in the university.
So when it's all said and done here, you've experienced both. Which one would you prefer if you had to pick a new program right now?
So if I were able to do a full-time program and have the same benefits of having a full scholarship and getting a full-time salary and having, those comforts, I would probably do an in-person class. But that isn't realistic.
Yeah.
That is just not a thing that exists in this world. So I think the answer would always be what is logical and what is feasible and what is the best decision for me and my family, and it's probably always going to be an online program.